Hare Krishna, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Can anyone confirm me? All right. So, we welcome everyone to the final presentation of this Nectar of Devotion. I'm just opening my PPT, so let it open till the time I'll offer prayers and we'll start our discussion. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टां स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी भष्यताय देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम पदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गोतसे नमः। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नाना शास्त्र विचारेक निपनो सधर्म संस्थापकौ लोकानां हितकारिणो त्रिभुवने मान्यो शरण्याकरो राधा कृष्ण पदा रविंद्र भजना नंदेन मत्तालिकयो वंदे रूप सनातनो रघुजुगो श्रीजीव गोपालो वंदे रूप सनातनो रघुजुगो श्रीजीव गोपालो। Hare Krishna. So welcome all for this, I would say, the concluding session of Nectar of Devotion. There's a little change of plan for today's program. I would only cover today 17, 18, 19 chapter. I will not be able to cover overview because I have to leave by 1:45. I forgot I had scheduled another program, so I have to leave by 1:45. But as all of you have a long 1 month break before your exam happens, so at the end of this month, the last weekend, we can again meet on 28th or 29th, whichever it is. That time I'll give overview of whole 19 chapters, and then we can have question answers also. So I thought that's more appropriate to have overview when you are actually kind of, studying through. That'll help you also. But because, as I said, we'll have an overview, so I'll not back off on my words. I'll give you a super overview. I mean, pretty concise and short overview. You can call it as a 5-minute overview, all right? So you have to hang on to your seat belts. The plane is going to take off and the speed will be very high when I go through this overview. Fine. So, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is divided into 4 sections. The preface actually defines the meaning of the word Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu, where the book is actually the book title in itself means the eternal nectarian ocean of bhakti, if you want to translate that into it. It is divided into 4 sections: eastern side, southern side, western side, and northern side. As part of our Bhakti Shastri syllabus and as part of our Adhikar as of now in Bhakti, we are only qualified to discuss the eastern side, and which is very essential for all of us to become steadfast in our Bhakti. This eastern side is further divided into 4 waves. In Sanskrit, it is called a Lahari. First wave is called Samanya Bhakti, second is called Sadhana Bhakti, third is called Bhava Bhakti, fourth is called Prema Bhakti. So far, in all our discussions until now, this is the 15th episode or 15th lesson of our Nectar devotion classes. We have only covered the first 2, Samanya and Sadhana. And now in the last session today, in 1.5 hours, we're going to cover Bhava and Prema. So by simple mathematical logic, it is against all logic that you spend 14 sessions for 2 topics and only 1 session, that too only for 1.5 hours for two topics. You'll get to know why we're doing that way, okay? So these are the 4 sections of waves within the 19 chapters as part of our syllabus. So what does the Samanya Bhakti covers? Samanya Bhakti covers the, these are 4 things. Samanya Bhakti covers the introduction. Preface is just what is the book about. Introduction, and the chapter 1 is part of your Samanya Bhakti. Samanya Bhakti, please do not get confused with Samanya Bhakti as general Bhakti. No, it's a general description of pure devotional service. That is what Samanya Bhakti here. Then the second wave starts from chapter 2 to chapter effectively 16, where the principles of Sadhana Bhakti, which is divided into 2, Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti, are described, which we have covered until last time. Third section is in ecstasy, Bhava, which is chapter number 17 and 18. Chapter 17 talks about what is Bhava Bhakti, how to achieve Bhava Bhakti, and chapter 18 talks about what are the symptoms and characteristics of one who is on Bhava Bhakti stage. And then comes the 19th chapter, which is, or the 4th wave, titled as Pure Love or Prema, under which only 1 chapter comes, 19th chapter, like that. So these are the 4 sides. What is in between chapter 2 to chapter 16? Let's divide into chapter 2 to 6. Chapter 2 talks or defines Sadhana Bhakti, Vaidhi Sadhana and Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Chapter 3 talks about eligibility. There are 3 things when eligibility is discussed. Eligibility to take to Krishna consciousness, eligibility to practice Krishna consciousness, and eligibility to make, eligibility to attain the goal of Sadhana Bhakti. In other words, to simplify, how one takes to Krishna consciousness, then second is how does one practice Krishna consciousness, and third, how one makes advancement in Krishna consciousness. So how does one take to Krishna consciousness? Who knows the answer? These are the 3 very important concepts. How does one take to Krishna consciousness? Maidani, go ahead. By the mercy of devotee. How does one practice the sadhana bhakti? No, I should not say how does one practice sadhana bhakti. How does one make advancement in bhakti? Should be ideally the question. How does one make advancement in bhakti? Yes, Mother Shreya. Something wrong with your name, isn't it? That's your Varsha. That's your daughter's name or something? Okay. I got confused. Yes, Mother Varsha. Correct. That helps us make advancement in bhakti. And what is the eligibility to practice pure devotional service? That is the third point. So what do we need to do to make advancement? Depends on faith and knowledge. Now, third point is eligibility to practice Shuddha Bhakti. Yes, Nitai Pran Prabhu. Very nice, very good. Correct answer. Only thing I could not hear anything. You're not audible at all. No, mother, can't hear you. Something wrong with your sound. With your confident look, I can tell you were making the right answer, but I don't know what you said. Okay. Anyone else wants to make an attempt until then? What is the eligibility to practice pure devotional service? Yes, Mother Satya, go ahead.
Maturity of knowledge.
No. That's part of your this thing only. Eligibility to make advancement in bhakti. Eligibility to practice pure devotional service. Okay, Nitai Pran Prabhu, let's hear from you if your mic is working now.
Hari Bol Pranam Prabhu.
Yes, Mother.
Prabhu, it's desire to be free from both bhakti and mukti.
Yes, correct. Bhakti Mukti Spraha. So to give up bhakti and mukti, desires for bhakti and mukti is what it's called as, eligibility. So chapter 2 speaks about that, chapter 3 speaks about that. And then chapter 4, where Srila Rupa Goswami gives evidence is how devotees give up on mukti also. So chapter 4 talks about that, where almost more than 25-30 quotations from scriptures proving that how devotees give up mukti also. How devotees give up the desire for bhakti is given in chapter 3 only. That's chapter 4. And then chapter 5 talks about how pure devotion service is independent and is self-sufficient. Independent and self-sufficient of what? What is the subject matter of chapter 5? Pure devotion service is self-sufficient, does not depend on. Chapter 5 talks about, okay, Mother Maithini. Okay, wait, let's hear from Mother Bhagavati. Your hand is up. Yes, Mother.
It's independent of knowledge and detachment.
Oh, no, not now, so soon. That was last time we discussed. Right now in chapter 5, the discussion is not that. Chapter 5, Mother Maithini, let's hear from you. What's the answer?
Independent of material qualification, especially pious birth.
Yes, the births and also of Varnashrama. It does not depend on the practice of Varnashrama dharma, and also it doesn't depend on your birth. You can be born in any condition, any situation, any family, may have performed any kind of sinful activities, yet anyone and everyone can take to bhakti. That is chapter 5. And so after explaining the theoretical aspect of this bhakti, Vaiti Sadhana Bhakti particularly, now chapter 6 talks about 64 items, which are also known as regulative principles. So we don't have 4 regulative principles. How many regulative principles we have? 64. 4 regulative principles that we have, it is meant for humans. For devotees, it is 64. Is that making sense? So the 4 regulative principles, they are meant to become human beings. But to become a devotee, we follow 64 regulative principles like that. So that's introduced in chapter 6, and from chapter 7 onwards begins the discussion. So what are the 64 regulative principles? 20 items of prime importance, where first 10 are the 2 do's: Guru Ashraya, service to Guru, inquiry from Guru, etc., etc. Those are the items to be practiced. Next are Nivriti, which should be avoided, fault finding, etc., etc. And then other 45 additional items are pertaining to items of sadhana, and then concluding the 5 most potent items out of the 64. And chapter 7 to chapter 12 actually gives a detailed explanation of all these 64 items. And chapter 13 concludes this discussion by highlighting the 5 most potent forms that can evoke bhava even in a neophyte. Does anyone know what are these 5 most potent devotional items or regulative principles that should be practiced, and that is in itself sufficient to evoke bhava bhakti also? Mother Rati Manjari, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sadhu Sangha, Nama Kirtan, Murti Seva, Dham Nivas, Bhagavad Shravan.
Yes, reading of scriptures. All right, thank you. So that's about chapter 13, and these are the list of items which are covered in each chapter, like that. Wait, the screen is visible, all of you, or no? Okay, now it's visible. Okay. So these are the items which are highlighted. And then chapter 14, 15, and 16. Chapter 14 talks about Bhakti does not depend on other spiritual path, which means Jnana and Vairagya primarily. And which Jnana and Vairagya that was? Monastic Jnana and Vairagya, renunciation means unnecessary practice of renunciation, which is not prescribed by the Guru Sadhu Shastra, like that. And this is where the Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti ends. Chapter 15 and 16 talks about Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. Chapter 15 talks about Ragatmika Bhaktas, those who are eternal associates of the Lord living in Vrindavan. Raganuga Bhaktas, Raga Anuga. The process is to follow in the footsteps of Ragatmika Bhaktas. And therefore, before we talk about Raganuga, Srila Rupa Goswami established what is Ragatmika Bhaktis and who are Ragatmika Bhaktas. And then chapter 16 talks about the practice of Raganuga Bhakti, like that. And now we come to the subject matter for today. So this was a quick 10 minutes overview of your first 16 chapters.
Recording stopped.
Now focusing on chapter
Recording in progress.
Hare Krishna. Chapter 17 to chapter 19 we'll discuss now, where we'll have a discussion on Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. So what is Bhava Bhakti? Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma Prema Suryam Shusamya Bhak Ruchibhi Chittamasnya Krid Asobhava Uchyate. When devotional service is situated on the transcendental platform of pure goodness, Shuddha Sattva, it is like a ray of the sunlight of love for Krishna. At such a time, devotional service causes the heart to be softened by various states, and it is called as Bhava or emotion, Bhava Bhakti. Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti, Sadhana and Sadhya. Sadhya is the goal of Bhakti, which is to get Prema. However, Srila Rupa Goswami describes a stage prior to Prema Bhakti, which is called Bhava Bhakti. So what is the difference between Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti? Bhava Bhakti, see, in Raganuga Bhakti, already you have attained attraction towards the Lord. You know, you're naturally attracted. You want to hear about the Lord. You want to serve the Lord. Bhava Bhakti means you have become more attached to the Lord. However, Prema Bhakti means that attachment has become highly condensed. So difference between Bhava and Prema Bhakti is, in Bhava Bhakti you say, Krishna, I am yours. My dear Lord, please protect me, I am yours. The Prema Bhakti, the subject matter changes, the way of addressing changes. In Prema Bhakti, the devotee says, Krishna, you are mine. Krishna is my child. Krishna is my friend. Krishna is my lover. So in Prema Bhakti, Krishna is mine. That's how the outlook is. But in Bhava Bhakti, generally the mood is, I am yours, my dear Lord. That's how the Acharyas explain. So we'll take a look at it. So in this 17th and 18th chapter, the discussion is, first in 17th chapter discussion is what is Bhava Bhakti, what are the primary characteristics and the secondary characteristics of Bhava Bhakti, then how we can attain to the stage of Bhava Bhakti. With this 17th chapter ends, and 18th chapter talks about what are the characteristics of an individual, how do we identify somebody has attained Bhava Bhakti platform. These are the high level discussions. So I would like, let's read from the book and then we'll have a discussion. Chapter number 17, and let's have our devotees. Who is managing today? Harinam Prabhu, Nitai Pran Prabhu, Mother Maitrini. Whoever is managing, please share the screen and allow our devotees to read. Mother Sri Lakshmi, your hand is up, and after that Mother Manisha can read. Please read the first paragraph. So Bhava Bhakti, just to make it clear, Bhava Bhakti is a stage where you're beyond the modes of material nature. Okay? You are situated, a devotee is situated in Shuddha Sattva. That is the definition of Bhava Bhakti. Like that. Now go ahead, read it. That's what his first paragraph talks about.
By the process of executing regulated devotional service, one is actually elevated onto the transcendental stage, beyond the material modes of nature. At that time, one's heart becomes illuminated like the sun. The sun is far above the planetary system, and there is no possibility of it being covered by any kind of cloud. Similarly, when a devotee is purified like the sun from his pure heart, there is a diffusion of ecstatic love which is more glorious than the sunshine. Only at that time is the attachment to Krishna perfect. Spontaneously, the devotee becomes eager to serve the Lord in his ecstatic love. At this stage, the devotee is on the platform of Uttamadhikari, perfect devotion. Such a devotee has no agitation from material affections and is interested only in the service of Radha and Krishna.
If I think of Bhagavad Gita, one verse comes to my mind. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na sochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu madbhakti labate param. And the next verse, Prabhupada writes, in the next verse, that actually after this platform is when your pure devotional service begins. So it looks like, it's being compared to a Bhava Bhakti. Of course, that's not a Bhava Bhakti necessarily, because that Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma stage is also for monists. When they become selfless, they also attain it. But only for those who have understood their relationship with Krishna, then it becomes Bhava Bhakti stage. Now they are not affected by the modes of material nature. So let's read the second paragraph. So the first paragraph explains that this bhakti is beyond the modes of material nature. So if you want to write down the heading for the paragraph, Bhava Bhakti is beyond the modes of material nature. That is what was discussed. Mother Manisha, please read the second paragraph.
To clarify, in the previous chapter, the symptoms of devotional service were explained along with the instruction as to how we execute devotional service with our present senses and gradually rise to the platform of ecstasy in the spontaneous love. And the two kinds of devotional services, namely devotional service through regulative principles and through spontaneous love, were discussed. Within the stage of regulative principles of devotional service, there are two divisions, namely executive and effective. This effective portion of devotional service is called Bhava of ecstasy. In this connection, there is a statement in the Tantras that ecstasy is the first symptom of pure love for the personality of Godhead, and at that stage, one is sometimes found shedding tears or shivering. Not always are these symptoms manifest, but occasionally. When King Ambrish was put into difficulty by Durvasa, he began to think of the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus there were some changes in his body, and tears were falling from the eyes. These symptoms are activities of ecstasy. They are visible in the shivering of the body and the shedding of tears. After the outward appearance of the ecstatic symptoms, they stay within the mind, and continuation of the ecstasy is called samadhi. This state of appreciation becomes the cause of future exchanges of loving affairs with Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this is kind of an introduction of what is Bhava Bhakti. We'll take a look at the definition and also the symptoms. And then Prabhupada here in the next paragraph talks about how to achieve the stage of Bhava Bhakti. But before we go with that, let's take a look at the definition again. So we already seen devotional service causes the heart to be softened by various stages. This is again by Srila Rupa Goswami. So let's take a look at the Swarup Lakshana of Bhava Bhakti. The Swarup Lakshana is, it is situated in Shuddha Sattva, like this. When one is in contact with Shuddha Sattva, one simultaneously feels Pushti and Tushti. Pushti means nourishment, Tushti means satisfaction of the heart. The Samvit potency nourishes one by remembrance of Krishna, and the Haladani potency satisfies one by devotion for Krishna. That's a Swarup Lakshana. Then Tathashta, the secondary Lakshana, Chitta Mashnaya, softens the heart. A quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto. Certainly that heart is still framed, which in spite of chanting the holy name with concentration does not change when ecstasy takes place and tears fills the eyes and hairs stand on end. So, softens the heart, Bhava Bhakti. This is often described, like we read in Shastrakam also. What is that? Nayanam galadashrudharaya, Vadanam gadgadarudhaya gira, Pulake nishitam vahu kada, Tavanam grahane bhavishyati. So this is a platform of Bhava Bhakti, where as soon as a devotee chants the name of the Lord, his eyes becomes filled with tears and remembrance of the Lord. His throat gets choked like that, etc., etc. Not only in relation to the Lord, at Bhava Bhakti stage, his heart is equally soft and full of compassion for all living entities. At this stature of one's spiritual practice, This is the Uttam Adhikari stage, just a little bit before the perfected stage actually, but still Uttam Adhikari stage. Here, the devotee does not discriminate. Forget about discrimination between humans, does not discriminate between species, becomes very, very conscious and alert, to their, spiritual upliftment also, like that. To give an example, His Grace Amrish Prabhu, who was actually Prabhupada's personal servant for a good amount of time, up to the time when Prabhupada went to London before coming back to India. But then Amrish Prabhu did not come back to India. So Amrish Prabhu explains about Prabhupada that how in his, in these final months, Srila Prabhupada was soft like butter. He was so considerate, so concerned for anyone and every individual, every devotee. I guess I have shared the example of Siddha Sarup Prabhu. Siddha Sarup Prabhu was Prabhupada's disciple, but before he became disciple, he was already practicing a spiritual life in a certain way and had followers. So when he read Prabhupada's book and decided to surrender, so along with him, all his followers also accepted Srila Prabhupada as spiritual master. But because for certain reason he couldn't work well with the leadership at that point of time, he decided to stay outside of ISKCON. He was from Hawaii and he continued his operations and spiritual activities in Hawaii. At one point in time, he had written a letter to Srila Prabhupada and he said, Srila Prabhupada, I hope you're recovering. That letter was just to check how Prabhupada is doing on his health. This is your fallen soul, Siddha Sarudas, etc., etc. I'm not worthy of your remembrance, but I hope if you ever remember Hawaii, then I hope that you may have my remembrance also, because he was from Hawaii like that. So Maharaj Prabhupada was on the bed. He was kind of bedridden that time. Amrish Prabhu was reading the letter. So Amrish Prabhu says, as soon as I finished reading the letter, Srila Prabhupada already had tears in his eyes. And he kind of was nodding his face and he said, oh, no, 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 no. I cannot forget any of my disciples. I cannot forget any of my disciples. And here, this particular devotee has already left Prabhupada, actually. He had already left ISKCON. So Amrish Prabhu writes there that, Prabhupada was exhibiting, the kind of a softness which was not seen before. I'm just giving one example of it, which is mentioned here about how a devotee becomes very soft-hearted, very considerate for others. There are certain qualities which are born of our karma. And there are certain qualities, not certain qualities, in fact, all the good qualities which are going to manifest gradually within all of us through the practice of bhakti. So this softness of heart is not a result of karma. This is because of bhakti. Just like Prabhupada was totally bedridden, he was in Vrindavan. This is before going to London. Amrish Prabhu was serving Prabhupada. I believe I might have shared this past time before. Prabhupada was in his bed and he was in extreme pain, challenging health situation. And Amrish Prabhu, after, imagine if you're taking care of a devotee in such a situation, it's very taxing. And that to a Prabhupada was very, very taxing. So there was some time, so Amrish Prabhu thought, I haven't slept for quite a few days now, let me go and take a quick nap. It was close to midnight, he came and right outside Prabhupada's room. Vrindavan, you have seen Prabhupada's quarters? And right outside, not outside Prabhupada's quarter, when you go outside, inside the quarter, there is a courtyard. So I believe somewhere there, Amrish Prabhu came, went and slept. Maybe there or maybe a little distance away. And it was a summer season and it was hot. So Amrish Prabhu switched on the fan and slept off. It was hardly half an hour, 40 minutes away. Another devotee came calling for Amrish Prabhu. Amrish Prabhu, Prabhupada is calling you. It was close to, 12:45 or something. Amrish Prabhu went to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, in a very soft, weak voice, he said, there is so much sound. There is so much noise coming. I am not able to sleep. And everyone is trying to pay attention where the sound is coming from. Nobody could actually experience any sound. So therefore, Prabhupada said, call Amrish. Amrish will be able to figure it out. So when Amrish came and he carefully heard, he was also in the first, he was surprised. He said, Prabhupada, there is no sound. They all thought some dogs are barking. It's a night time. Nothing was there. And when Amrish heard it patiently, and then he realized there's a sound of a fan. The twirling sound of the fan is coming. And Amrish said, Prabhupada, is that the sound of fan you're indicating? Prabhupada said, yes. And Amrish said, oh, Prabhupada, I'm so sorry. Actually, I had switched on the fan where I was sleeping. I'll go and quickly, immediately switch it off. So Amrish says, Prabhupada caught hold of my hand. He said, oh, it is for your comfort? Then no problem. Let the fan be on. Amrish said, no, Prabhupada, you're not able to sleep. You've hardly taken rest. Your health is so bad. Prabhupada again holding the hand, he said, no, that's all right. If it is for your comfort, so be it. And another day in the morning program, Prabhupada was there. Of course, Prabhupada was not there. Morning program happened. This is another occasion. Prabhupada's health is so bad, he hasn't eaten for a good amount of time. Of course, this is not Amrish Wu. Somebody else was there who was serving and taking care of Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada called temple president and asked, are you serving proper prasadam to all the devotees? Are they taking properly like that? So I'm just sharing some examples to get you a kind of a glimpse of what it means at this stature. I mean, I can't have any other better example than Prabhupada. Of course, he's at a Prema Bhakti stage, but I'm saying these characteristics more or less are same. A Bhava or Prema. Only difference in Bhava and Prema is in your attachment to Krishna, in the mood. But characteristics of what, qualities that manifest are more or less same only, that way. So that is about Chittamrishnaya, softens the heart. Once heart softens to such an extent, he is often found to be visibly moved by emotions. Oh, some of you may say, Prabhu, does it mean tears during Kirtan, that means Bhava Bhakti stage? What do you all think? Or taking darshan of the deities, tears coming down, rolling down the eyes, is that Bhava Bhakti stage? Now, why I'm saying is, how many of us have shed tears during Kirtans or maybe taking darshan of the deities? Raise your hands. Our eyes have become welled up once in a while. All right, hold on, huh? We'll re-verify if that's a Bhava Bhakti stage or some other stage. At least not for me, but some of you could be on that stage. But I'll give you some evidence why I'm not on that stage, okay? We'll discuss that shortly. All right, that's the point about waves of devotion. Next lakshan is ruchi bihi. It gives rise to various tastes. Prapti abhilasha, to have Krishna, to achieve Krishna. Anukulya abhilasha, anukulya, to serve Krishna in a pleasing ways, in different ways. Suhard abhilasha, desire to be close at heart with Krishna. Like that, this symptom manifests. In other words, do you all remember the prayer from Mother Kunti in the first canto when she says, my dear Lord, please break away the bonds of affection for my relatives. I only want my consciousness to flow towards your lotus feet. I don't want anything else. So, bear with me with my comment and forgive me if you don't like it. I'm just making a comment here, okay? What it seems that at Bhava Bhakti, of course, as a devotee, you have affection for anyone, but our center of attraction, our center of life is entirely Krishna. There is nobody who exists at that point of time. Of course, devotees and Krishna in that way are same. Krishna's paraphernalia and Krishna are same, counted as same that way. But I mean to say, maybe I can say, bear with me again. I'm talking to Grihastha forum here. So what I meant to say here is, you all remember Mahabharat's concluding scene when Yudhishthira Maharaj got to know that Krishna have departed or left. Then Yudhishthira Maharaj left, Bhima left, Arjun left, Nakul Sahadev left, and behind them came Draupadi. How many of you know then when they reached a certain point in the Himalayas, this is beyond Badri Vishal, Badrinath, then Draupadi collapsed. She left her body. And Bhima screamed, Bhaiya, Yudhishthira Maharaj, Suno, Draupadi have left her body. Yudhishthira did not turn back, kept on walking. Now, sometimes, okay, I don't want to go into much details, leave it. Let's continue moving forward. Yudhishthira Maharaj continued walking. And then after a while, Sahadev fell, Nakul fell, and Bhima, Bhaiya, Nakul, Sahadev fell, didn't look back. Then Arjuna fell, didn't look back. And finally, Bhima collapsed. Bhaiya, even I fell down. Fell down means now dying. Yudhishthira didn't look back. So from one perspective, it may look like Yudhishthira Maharaj was very hard-hearted. I would leave this as a homework. I would like all of you to give your food for thought a little bit. Why Yudhishthira Maharaj acted like this? But what we are discussing from our current subject matter, it wasn't at all hard-hearted. Yudhishthira Maharaj kept on walking straight. He did not even look back. Forget about stopping and forget about giving his hand and helping any of his brothers. So think about it, and if somebody would like to give an answer on it, you can give an answer later on. Let's move forward in the discussion. So give rise to various tastes like this. So this is about the symptoms. Now, how can I attain to the stage of Bhava Bhakti where I can say, Krishna, I am yours. That's Bhava Bhakti. And Prema Bhakti, Krishna, you are mine. That becomes like that, completes the statement. So you can attain to the stage of Bhava Bhakti by Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti practice, and second is by mercy. By practice is by Vaidhi and by Raganuga Bhakti. Somebody starts from Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, goes through and comes to the Bhava Bhakti stage. And somebody can even start at the Raganuga stage. And of course, starts in Raganuga means in previous life might have done the Bhakti, but might start in Raganuga in this stage and attains to Bhava Bhakti. Similarly, Bhava Bhakti, the stage of Bhava Bhakti can be attained by mercy of the Lord. Srila Rupa Goswami describes in three ways the mercy of the Lord comes: through his words, through his glances, through his good wishes. Now, let's take a look at what Prabhupada describes more in his purpose on this subject matter. Please read the next paragraph. Mother Rupali, your hand is up. If it's for reading, please go ahead.
Elevation to the stage of ecstasy can be possible in two ways. One way is by constant association with pure devotees. The other way is by special mercy of Krishna, or by mercy of pure devotee of Krishna. Elevation to the ecstatic stage of life is generally attained through association with pure devotees, while elevation to that stage by the special mercy of Krishna or his devotee is very rare. The purport is that one should execute devotional service rigidly in the association of devotees, so that there will be certainty in raising oneself to that ecstatic position. In special cases, of course, there is a special favor from Krishna, and although we should always expect that, we should not sit idly and simply wait for Krishna's special mercy.
So Krishna's mercy can elevate us, but it does not mean we wait for it. We should engage ourselves, and Prabhupada gives a very beautiful example to explain. Please read out.
The regular duties must be performed. It is just as when sometimes it is found that a person who never attended school or college may be recognized as a great scholar, or an honorary degree from great universities may be offered to him. But this does not mean that one should avoid school and expect to automatically receive an honorary degree from some university. Similarly, one should devotedly execute the regulative principles of devotional service, and at the same time hope for Krishna's favor or for his devotees' favor.
So yes, Krishna's mercy is there. Krishna mercy is our shelter to help us move forward. But Papa says, gives an example, just like some extraordinary people are given PhD degree or doctorate degree, even without they joining the college, because they have made some incredible contribution. So it is not there for everyone. Everyone have to strive and endeavor. Therefore, Papa says we should make an endeavor and yet wait for Krishna's mercy to descend and help us move forward. And now, Srila Rupa Goswami gives an example of a bhakta who by the practice of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti attained Bhava Bhakti. And that is given in next paragraph. Please go to next paragraph. I'll give you the summary and we'll read to the next. So here in the next paragraph, the example of Narada, the boy, has been given. Now, what happened, or what was the benediction that Narada, the boy, received? He received the benediction when he was 5 years old, that he got the association for 4 months of a very advanced devotees, the pure devotees of the Lord in one sense. And in the association of these devotees, he got an opportunity to serve them, and also through service, he attracted their mercy, and he also got to hear from them what Krishna consciousness. He also got to honor their Mahaprasadam because of all these factors, various factors of mercy descending through the form of oral reception, through the form of Mahaprasadam, which was tasted by these devotees, which Narada boy got. He became purified, and his attachment to Krishna grew more and more in the association of these sages. That is what the subject matter is of the next paragraph. The second point, which is described how we can attain to the stage of Bhava Bhakti, is hearing from a pure devotee of the Lord. Please read out the next paragraph. And Prabhupada says, let's read out next paragraph. Yeah, Mother Rupaliana, read. Go ahead, finish it up. The next paragraph.
An example of rising to the stage of ecstatic love.
No, that we have described. Paragraph next to it. You see, yeah, yes.
how one can develop to the stage of ecstatic love simply by the association of pure devotees. It is essential, therefore, that one constantly associate with pure devotees who are engaged morning and evening in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. In this way, one will get the chance to purify his heart and develop this ecstatic pure love for Krishna.
So, by the association of devotees, and in that association, hearing from them, arises this emotions, ecstatic emotions. And to give it as an evidence in the next paragraph, how the association of pure devotees is so important. Srila Rupa Goswami quotes a statement by Lord Kapila spoken to Mother Devati in 3rd canto, chapter number 25, verse number 25. Mother Priya, go ahead, your hand is up. Please read the next paragraph.
Hare Krishna. This statement is also confirmed in the 3rd canto, 25th chapter, verse 25 of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Lord Kapila says, "My dear mother, when a person is actually in association with pure devotees, the sublime potency of my devotional service can be experienced. In other words, when a pure devotee speaks, his words act upon the heart of the audience. What is the secret of hearing and chanting? A professional speaker cannot impress transcendental ecstasy within the hearts of the listeners. However, when a realized soul who is engaged in the service of the Lord is speaking, he has the potency to inject spiritual life within the audience. One should therefore seek the association of such pure, unalloyed devotees, and by such association and service, a neophyte devotee will certainly develop attachment, love, and devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead."
A very important point which is mentioned here, you can mark it as an important reference for yourself. The advancement of a speaker, whatever level of realizations and advancement the devotee has, to that degree he can inspire bhakti in your heart. Therefore, from whom we hear is very important regularly. As such, so there are many, many profound speakers on the subject matter of Bhagavata philosophy. Could be very learned and whatnot about it. But their practice, we don't know their practice, but how do we know, what is the level of their practices, or what is the level of their bhakti is, how many hearts they're able to transform, what kind of result they're able to produce through their preaching. And that gives an evidence of their bhakti shakti. So whatever is the level of bhakti shakti of speaker, to that degree he can raise the level of audience, not beyond it. That's the point which is mentioned. The same thing will repeat in Nectar of Instruction also. So this was about Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, where through the process association with the advanced devotees, regularly hearing and serving them, you can make advancement. Next paragraph, through Raganuga stage, how one can come to Bhava Bhakti. And an example is quoted from Padma Purana, an example of Chandrakanta, who had not performed any devotional activity, followed any rules and regulation of devotional regulated principles prior to this particular incident, where she entered a temple and she felt so greatly inspired to dance for the pleasure of Krishna in the mood of gopis, and she continued dancing the whole night. And through that endeavor to please Krishna all through the night, non-stop chanting for the pleasure of Krishna, advanced her to the stage of Bhava Bhakti. Now, why it is said Raganuga Bhakti? Why she was on Raganuga? Because nobody had asked her. She was self-inspired to dance, and she continued. That's the example has been given as of Chandrakanta. And then next example is of mercy. So one is through Sadhana Bhakti, which means Vaidhi Sadhana or Raganuga. Now an example of mercy is given. Next paragraph. Mother Leela Nandani. Please read the next paragraph. Then Mother Maidhavani and Jai Prabhu.
In the Padma Purana, there is a story of a yogi who, in order to raise herself to the ecstatic platform, danced all night to invoke the Lord's grace upon her. Sometimes, however, it is found that without undergoing any devotional process, one all of a sudden develops devotion for Lord Krishna. This sudden development of the devotional attitude in a person must be understood as a special mercy of Krishna or of his devotee. This apparently accidental development of ecstatic feelings through the causeless mercy of Krishna can be divided into three groups: simply by speaking, simply by glancing, and simply by good wishes.
So now the examples will be given for each one of it. Mother Maidhavani, go ahead and read the example for simply by speaking. The next paragraph talks about how through the process of speaking, the mercy descended to a devotee.
In the Naradiya Purana, there is a statement about development of ecstatic love, simply by speaking. For Krishna said to Narada, O best of the Brahmanas, I wish that we develop all devotional service which is full of transcendental bliss and all auspiciousness. In the Skanda Purana, there is a statement about developing ecstatic love towards Krishna. Should I continue, Prema?
Yes.
In the Skanda Purana, there is a statement about developing ecstatic love towards Krishna simply by dancing. When the inhabitants of Jangala province saw the personality of God Krishna, it is so stricken with fury that they could not withdraw their glance from him.
And now, third is of heartfelt wishes. The next paragraph, please read.
As far as heartfelt wishes are concerned, there is a statement in the Shukra Samhita wherein Narada tells Vyasadeva, who is the greatest devotee of the personality of Godhead, and you can observe that without any following of the regulative principles of devotional service, he is already enriched with any of the symptoms achieved by the execution of devotional service after many, many births.
Hare Krishna. So here, Narad Muni's, wish fulfilling heart for Sukdev Goswami is described. And actually, it is mentioned because Narad Muni wished this for Sukdev Goswami. Therefore, Sukdev Goswami became like such a perfected devotee, like that. So, the three examples of mercy through speaking, through glancing, and through wish fulfilling heart. Now, let's take a look at about attaining ecstatic love, which is mentioned in the next paragraph. Jai Prabhu, go ahead.
As for ecstatic love for Krishna, there is a statement in the 7th canto, 4th chapter, verse 36 of Srimad Bhagavatam, in which Narada addresses King Yudhishthira. My dear king, it is very difficult to describe the character of Prahlad. He developed a natural affection for Krishna, and whatever I can explain about his character will simply be an arrangement of words. The actual character is impossible to describe. This means that Narad himself admitted that the natural development of Prahlad's ecstatic love was by the grace of Lord Krishna.
Yes, please read. So how did Prahlad Maharaj receive the mercy of Krishna? Prabhupada explains he received the mercy of Krishna through receiving the mercy of Narada Muni. Next paragraph.
This natural attraction for Krishna on part of Prahlad was developed simply by the mercy of Narada. When Prahlad Maharaj was within the womb of his mother, she was sympathetically instructed by Narada about the science of devotional service. And at the same time, Narada was wishing that the child within the womb would also take advantage of the instruction. Because Narada, an authorized devotee and great associate of the personality of Godhead, was desiring auspiciousness for Prahlad Maharaj, he developed all the characteristics of a high-grade devotee. This is called natural attraction. It is caused by the special grace of the personality of Godhead or by the special grace of a great devotee like Narada.
Because Narad Muni had chosen to deliver Prahlad, protect Prahlad, and Narad Muni instructed Mother Kayadu. Kayadu was pregnant that time with Prahlad Maharaj, and Prahlad Maharaj heard all the instructions of Narad Muni. Therefore, receiving the mercy of Narad Muni means receiving the mercy of Krishna. Therefore, it is said, what is that? The last shloka, the last stanza of our Guruvashtakam. Saksha Dharat, no, what is it? Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado yasya aprasada nagati kutopi. If I don't have mercy of my Guru, there is no question of receiving mercy of Krishna. So Prahlad Maharaj received mercy of Krishna because of the mercy of Narada Muni. Then concluding, Jai conclude the last two paragraphs.
There is a statement in the Skanda Puran wherein Parvat Muni tells Narada, my dear Narada, of all saintly persons, you are so great and glorious that simply by your good wishes, a low-born hunter also become a great elevated devotee of Lord Krishna.
So like this, and that's okay, the last point, like this. So in this particular chapter, chapter number 17, we talked about what is Bhava Bhakti. the practice of bhakti at Shuddha Sattva level, where the devotee is beyond the modes of material nature. He has developed strong affinity, attraction for Krishna, Bhava Bhakti, emotions, not only affinity, but his heart is filled with emotions for Lord. How does this Bhava Bhakti is attained? Is attained to the Vaidhi Sadhana Marg, Sadhana Bhakti, which means Vaidhi or Raganuga, or by the mercy. Mercy is in three forms: mercy in the form of glances, in the form of words, in the form of wish fulfilling, a well wishing heart. Like that, a person makes an advancement when he gets mercy in this way. Now, what are the symptoms of such a person who has attained this stage? Is chapter number 18. Let me quickly take out the presentation and we'll start from there. So, chapter number 18, what are the symptoms of Bhava Bhakti? Symptoms of Bhava Bhakti. One can neither imitate nor conceal the symptoms. You cannot imitate it and you cannot hide it. First, avyartha kalatvam. Avyartha kalatvam, such a devotee would never ever waste even a moment not being engaged in devotional service. Shanti, to remain tolerant and patient even amid great disturbances, like Yudhishthira Maharaj or Parikshit Maharaj. He was cursed to die, yet he did not become angry at Shringi, although he had all the right to become angry at Shringi, because Parikshit Maharaj did not commit an offense or aparat for which he was supposed to be given such a severe punishment. Yet Parikshit Maharaj maintained his cool. Similarly, Yudhishthira Maharaj is described for that. Third, virakti, indifference to objects of sense gratification. Just like Parikshit Maharaj left of the kingdom. So Parikshit Maharaj was given a 7-day notice, he left it. But what about Bharat Maharaj? He didn't got any notice, but yet he left everything. That is the meaning of indifference to objects of sense gratification. Fourth, man shunyataha, pridelessness. Fifth, Ashabandha. Ashabandha means he has a complete faith that Krishna will protect me. I have no hope on my own. I am a totally useless person. But yet Krishna is so kind, he will protect me. He will give his mercy. Samatkantha, eagerness. Samatkantha, very eager to achieve pure devotional service. And Namagane Sadaruchi, constant attraction to chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And the eighth quality is Asakti Tad Gunakhyane. He has an addiction to glorify Lord Shri Krishna. 9. Pritis Tad Vasati Sthale, attachment for living in Dhama. Like this, there are 9 qualities which are described, which you see in the very first paragraph of chapter number 18. So the last saying that he is very eager to live in a place where Lord's pastimes are performed, like Mathura, Vrindavan, Mayapur, etc. What is the instruction of our spiritual master, our Acharya in this context, like Srila Prabhupada? Srila Prabhupada said, all our ISKCON temples are like Dham. Staying there and serving there and collaborating there, what means we are staying in a Dhama like that. So now in rest of the chapter, these examples are given. Like for utilization of time, example is given of how a devotee never wastes any time not engaging in service. And then perseverance, an example of Parikshit Maharaj is given. So this is something which is self-reading. All of you can read out on your own. I'll not spend so much time on it. On detachment, I already quoted the example of Bharat Maharaj. And pridelessness. And the pridelessness example is given from Padma Puran of King Bhagirath. He was the emperor of all the kings, yet he developed such a love for Krishna that he became a mendicant and went out begging even to the homes of his political enemies and untouchables. And here in this paragraph, next paragraph, Prabhupada gives a very famous example of Lal Babu, a big Jamindar from Calcutta who had a great animosity or fight with another competitive landlord. They just totally disliked each other. But once Lal Babu became a Vaishnava, he moved to Vrindavan, where the second competitor of his, with whom he had a great animosity, was also living. He was begging from door to door, even at the homes of his political enemies. Literally, the animosity was such an extent that they wanted to kill each other. So when Lal Babu came onto the door of this Jamindar knocking on the door, and when the doorkeeper got to know the beggar is none other than Lal Babu, when he went and told the master, he became so happy that now Lal Babu has come to beg from me, and I'll take this opportunity to shoot him down. So it is described when this Jamindar came in contact with Lal Babu, he really saw him, met him and spoke to him. He got transformed seeing the transformation of Lal Babu and understood Lal Babu has genuinely become humble. That's the reason he has come to my door like that. So this is pridelessness, the qualities which develops at Bhava Bhakti. Begging involves being ready to be insulted by persons to whose home one has come. That is natural. But one has to tolerate such insults for the sake of Krishna. Then great hope, what could be a better example than Shabari, who waited for such a long time for the Lord to appear like that. This is mentioned. Then for eagerness for achieving the desired success, which means eagerness for our day-to-day practice of spiritual culture. How eager we are for attending morning program, Mangalarti, Krishna, the Bhagavatam class, Guru Puja, etc., etc. An example of Bil Manga Thakur is given in this context. And attachment to chanting the holy names of the Lord, which means chanting 16 quality rounds and one extra round, a round of love. Now, why it is called round of love? Because just to chant 16 rounds, to chant one additional round, certainly means you have developed a love of Godhead. How many of you agree? Try out tomorrow. When 16 rounds get done now, it feels like as if a huge responsibility has been taken off my head. But one who's after finishing 16 rounds is able to chant one extra round, then not later in the day, because your dinner has been, you have offered bhoga to Lord and there is nothing to do, there's a 15 minutes gap, so you're wandering around chanting one extra round. No, that is not round of love. A round of love is when you chanted 60 rounds and now you say, can I chant one more round? That is called as round of love that way. Okay. Attachment to chanting. Eagerness to describe Lord's transcendental qualities, attraction for living in the place, like this. This is being described. Now, Prabhupada, in the last 2 pages, takes up a discussion on, after describing all these things, at times such emotions or symptoms can also be exhibited by neophytes. Where he may, for example, how many of you have seen if you're going for a yatra and there happens to be somebody who's coming for a yatra for the first time, and that person is so super excited. Oh, when will the Vrindavan Yatra start? I want to so eagerly go to Vrindavan Yatra. Have you seen, when the first timers, some devotees are so eager, and they go there, they put on a t-shirt, I lost my heart in Vrindavan. And then you ask them, what's your plan? You want to come? Oh, I feel like so wonderful. Krishna's pastime all over the place. I wish I could always stay here. Now, you might, after reading Nectar Devotion, think, he has got such a high attraction to live in Vrindavan. Maybe he got some kripa here and he has developed Bhava Bhakti. No, these symptoms happens. These symptoms happen in neophytes also. So how do we distinguish that? That is what Prabhupada focuses here. So this is what Prabhupada had written. You can read it for yourself. I would like to read it from Waves of Devotion, where this has been given in a simpler form. So let me just open the notes here. I'll share it quickly and then we'll read out from there. Just give me a quick second. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. First, third wave. Actually, I had opened and had prepared these notes on my other laptop, but I'm working on another laptop now. So you have to give me a minute's time. I'm just opening up. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Okay. It is saying it is not allowed to be opened here. 1 second, please. Can you bring my laptop, Prabhu? I'll just make a quick change. In the meantime, all of you can continue reading from the book till the time I pull out my short notes. You can just do your personal reading until then and give me a quick minute here. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna 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 All right. I will share the screen. I will do it from another laptop now. Somehow it's just not working on my Mac. Are you able to see the screen now? So I'd like somebody to read out. Is the size okay? Big enough? So ecstatic symptoms in neophytes or non-devotees. Okay, Nitai Pranpu, go ahead. I would like if all the devotees can take part into it. So, that's good if engagement is there. Yes, please go ahead.
Sometimes non-devotee may seem to exhibit signs of ecstasy. This is simply an external display of mundane emotion. Genuine ecstatic symptoms are the private domain of advanced devotees with a strong and exclusive attachment for Krishna. They can never appear in people attached to sense gratification or liberation. It is said by Rupa Goswami that the attachment exhibited by pure devotees for Krishna cannot possibly be perfected in the heart of fruitive worker or mental speculators. Page 139.
Continue.
Even those who adroitly execute sadhana bhakti may not attain bhava. So what to speak of a non-devotee? Sri Prabhupada says, this attachment is very confidentially kept by Krishna and is bestowed only upon pure devotees. Even ordinary devotees cannot have such pure attachment for Krishna. Therefore, how is it possible for success to be achieved by persons whose hearts are contaminated by the actions and reactions of fruitive activities and who are entangled by various types of mental speculation? When neophytes or non-devotees display emotions that resemble the symptoms of bhava, it is known as
Rati Abhas.
A mere reflection of bhava. There are two types of rati abhyas: rati bimba, reflective, and chaya, shadows.
So in the first chapter, the 6 characteristics of pure devotion service are described. Kleshagni subadha moksha lagatukra sudurlabha Sandarananda Visheshatma Shri Krishna Karshani Chasa. So the fourth quality Kleshagni Subhada, Moksha Lagatukrit, Sudurlabha. Sudurlabha. Moksha Lagatukrit and Sudurlabha, they are the characteristics which manifest at Bhava Bhakti. Sudurlabha, there it is described that Krishna does not give access to pure devotee, pure devotion easily. And that is a point which is mentioned here. Now, going to the two kinds of this ecstatic symptoms which are seen in neophytes, what is called as reflective and other is called as shadow. So let's see Pratibimba, Rati Abhas. Mother Rati Manjari, you can read this section.
Reflective attachment, pratibimba, rati abhasa. Someone may execute devotional service where ulterior motive, the purpose gain or liberation. In this case, although the motive is corrupt, the practice is usually quite intense. While performing devotional activities in the association of advanced devotees, such a person may experience symptoms that resemble ecstasy because the genuine ecstasy of advanced devotees are reflecting upon the mirror of his heart.
Is because of the association, he is also getting affected and is also depicting or manifesting the same symptoms as of a pure devotee. It is not his own. That's why it is called reflective. Go ahead.
Srila Prabhupada explains, sometimes it is found that the person actually attached to material enjoyment or salvation has the good fortune to associate with pure devotees while they are engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord. By the good grace of the Lord, one may also cooperate and join in the chanting. At that time, simply by the association with such pure devotees, the moonlight rays from their hearts reflect on him, and by the influence of pure devotees, he may show some lightness of attachment. Page 140.
Hare Krishna. Just last night only, I was seeing some Harinam videos from a London Harinam Sankirtan party. Some were very profound, fantastic, this thing, videos. Nonetheless, I remember while seeing them, there was one particular incident where our Harinam Sankirtan party is doing Harinam Sankirtan, and suddenly a bunch of some young men and boys and girls came, and they were really dancing wildly. So, how many of you have taken part in Harinam Sankirtan? Please raise your hand first of all. Okay, quite a few of you. And how many of you, particularly this experience would be of those who are in West? And how, if you ever had an experience where you saw entirely a new fellow, a new person, dancing very enthusiastically, and you're wondering, I could not even dance 10% with enthusiasm that he or she is dancing. And look at this person, how enthusiastically he's dancing. How many of you have had this thought when seeing sometimes like this? Wow, such an enthusiasm, and somehow your feet are glued to the earth. You're not able to move because you have a heavy head, because you just had an argument with one devotee, and you're thinking, oh, I don't know, today I'll get a prasadam also or not. You have so many things going in your head. This new fellow comes, and his whole enthusiasm is dancing. I just saw that video. I was so blissed out while I saw this video of our London Harinam, how the young boys and girls were dancing. So that's a point which is mentioned. In association with devotees, sometimes it reflects, but it is not theirs. When a devotee party will continue moving forward, these people go away and continue with their life. That's the meaning of reflective. Let's take a look at the last, which is called as shadow. What is shadow attachment? Chaya Rati Abhas. Mother Varsha, go ahead.
Shadow attachment, chaya rati abhas. Sometimes a person may execute a devotional service out of social convention or vague curiosity. Compared to the reflective attachment, this devotional service is less intense, but the motive is not nearly as corrupt. Such people may exhibit a slight resemblance of ecstatic symptoms, especially when they join Kirtan, attend big festivals, visit the Holy Gram, or get the occasional association of saintly devotees. Srila Prabhupada explains such shadow attachment or para attachment can develop if one associates with a pure devotee or visit holy place like Vrindavan or Mathura. And if an ordinary man develops such an attachment for Krishna, and fortunately performs devotional activities in the association of pure devotees, he can also raise to the platform of pure devotional service.
So
Based
point
on
here, the point here is the shadow, the intentions, the motivations are not wrong. First of all, it may be out of social convention as or vague curiosity or whatnot. Take an example of yatra. You have gone for a pilgrimage, and it could be you, it could be somebody else, and quite a new person has been there around for a few months. But while the yatra has ended, and he's looking back while climbing the train, one hand and one feet is on the train, other hand and feet is on the platform, and his face is looking backward at the platform, and the eyes are filled with tears. Oh, Mera Vrindavan, I'm leaving you. And the heart becomes emotionally surcharged. But after a week, when you meet that person, when he goes back to a city, like he's forgotten the whole Vrindavan. And it could be with us also, might have happened. Okay, so that is a point. Again, it's bhakti shakti of devotees that affect and create those emotions. Those are not. So this is what the neophyte. It happens at the neophyte stage. They are not ours. It is because we are an association of advanced devotees. So their emotions churn certain emotions in our heart, which gets manifested in such kind of moods and desires like that. Let's finish off this discussion. Please read the remaining part.
the previous type of Ratya Bhasa Pratibimba more intensely reflects Bhava. It is like an image reflected in a mirror. However, in Chaya Ratibhasa, the symptoms are not as clearly reflected.
So fine, this is about Rati Abhas and Chaya Abhas. How can we transform this Rati Abhas? Abhas means like shadow or a reflection, you can call it. It's not the truth, it's not the reality, but a reflection of kind of it existing. How can we transform this into a genuine bhava? The one point answer is the association of pure devotees of the Lord. If we get an opportunity to serve the Vaishnavas and get the opportunity to associate with the Vaishnavas, by their association, we'll also acquire the same mood that they have for worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the subject matter here. And then Prabhupada writes about impersonalism, merging, and all that. And then there's a causeless bhava. Fine. Let's come to the last point on the subject: attitude towards faults and devotees. Naveen Prabhu, go ahead, read the section.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Attitude towards faults and devotees. If a person on the platform of Bhava appears to have some fault, how should we understand this? Srila Rupa Goswami explains that although Bhava has arisen, it has not yet completely destroyed all sinful reactions. One should disregard such faults, understanding that the devotee will soon become completely perfect by the glorious force of devotion. Srila Prabhupada says, the example is given that on the full moon there are some spots which may appear to be pockmarks. Still, the illumination spread by the moon cannot be checked. Similarly, a little spot in the midst of volumes of devotional service is not at all to be counted as spot. Page 142.
Hare Krishna. So this was the last paragraph of this 18th chapter. Let's come to the 19th chapter now, where we enter into the fourth wave of the first section of Nectar devotion, and that is called as Prema Bhakti, the pure love. So what is the definition of Prema Bhakti? Srila Rupa Goswami describes Samyanmashnita swanto mamata vatishyānkitaha bhavasaeva sandratma buddhahe prema nigatyate. Samyan means completely. So as I said here, this is a culmination of your affection and attachment to Krishna in its complete form, absolute form. Here, the mood of a devotee, of course, the mood of the devotee that I am yours, but more than that is Krishna is mine. And that is a predominant mood here. And the experience of joy, affection is in more condensed form. So, what is the definition of this? When that bhava softens the heart completely, becomes endowed with a great feeling of possessiveness in relation to the Lord, and becomes very much condensed and intensified, it is called as prema. So, what are the primary symptoms or lakshanas of this prema bhakti? Sarup Lakshan Bhava sa eva sandratma. which means Sandaratma, Sandarananda Visheshatma, which means condensed. This Prema Bhakti is nothing but condensed form of Bhava Bhakti, or intensified state of Bhava. What are the Tathashta Lakshana, secondary Lakshanas? Samyan Mashnita Swanto, which means it completely softens your heart. Mamatva Ati Shyankitaha, marked by highly possessive ownership of Sri Krishna. Krishna is mine. This is something interesting. Of course, that's not the subject, but I just want to highlight this point. Samyan Mashnita Swanto, one who has attained, one who's actually really a lover of God, his heart will become very soft. I was recently interacting with some Christians. I had to speak to them about Krishna conscious philosophy. So that time I was quoting to them Saint Francis of Assisi. I was telling them, how Saint Francis of Assisi is one of my role models. So this Srila Prabhupada, when he was in Australia, was speaking in Saint Francis of Assisi's church. After the lecture, one of the church member asked Srila Prabhupada, what does he think about Saint Francis of Assisi? And whenever a question was asked about an individual, Prabhupada would not speak about an individual, would ask what is the philosophy. So the devotee said the philosophy, or the church member said the philosophy of Saint Francis of Assisi was brother, sun, sister, moon. He saw every living entity his brother and sister. As soon as he said that, devotees explained who were there, that Prabhupada had a twinkle in his eyes and the tears began to roll down. And Prabhupada exclaimed, oh, he was a pure devotee of Lord. What does it mean by pure devotee of the Lord? Again, take a look here. Oh, there is a presentation. His heart becomes completely soft. What is the meaning of his heart becomes completely soft? Those who says we are the lovers of the God, how can they ever hate any other human being? What to speak about other species of life? So I use this as an excuse to make a point for those who say they are the God-fearing, God-loving Christians, because I was speaking to them, and they eat non-vegetarian food, they consume meat. How can they be called as lovers of God? Because the Saint Francis of Assisi loved every living entity. So the things that happens on the name of religion is not on the name of religion. This one point, if you understand that how religion or the love of Godhead actually invokes compassion for every living entity, there cannot be any hatred in the heart of a genuine spiritual practitioner for other living entities. So those who are killing on the name of God, they're not killing on the name of God or religion, they're fulfilling their political ambitions. They're just creating a political rift, and that's how they're abusing the religion here. Nonetheless, that was a Tathashta Lakshan, because I think this is a very important point. It completely softens the heart. Many times people say, oh, religion is the foremost cause of all conflict. How can God be cause of the conflict? God reconciles, Krishna reconciles. Lord Rama said when Vibhishan came back, when nobody was willing to accept, only Hanumanji agreed. So Ram said, yes, I also follow what Hanumanji said. And that matter of time, Ram said, even if Ravana would have to come and return Sita and would take my shelter, I'm willing to give shelter to even Ravana. So how it is like hell and heaven once for all, once you have made a mistake. So I asked this Christian, so I said, according to your philosophy, what happens after death? They said hell and heaven. So I said, which means if you go to heaven and the other person does not accept Jesus, goes to hell. So your God is so hard-hearted that he would never give a second chance. Then I asked them, I said, when you become upset with your child, you slap a child, but do you give a second chance to your child or you throw them outside the house? They said, no, we give second chance. So I said, who is more compassionate, you or your God now? So they got the point here. So that's a point here in this regard. Now, Tathashta Lakshan Bhava Bhakti, one gets vision of the Lord and understands his relationship. In Prema Bhakti, enters the relationship as Krishna as my son, Krishna as my friend, like this. And finally, Srila Rupa Goswami talks about how the progression happens, how one can attain to Prema Bhakti. What is the goal of every devotee in ISKCON? Every morning we loudly exclaim the goal. The goal of every Hare Krishna devotee is, what is that? Every Vaishnava must carefully guard all these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. So Prema Bhakti is the goal of our every individual bhakta. So Srila Rupa Goswami concludes this chapter 19 by describing how that goal can be attained. And here he coins a very beautiful verse. Please repeat. Adau Shraddha Sadhu Sangha, Adau Shraddha Tatha Sadhu Sangotha Bhajana Kriya, Tato Anartha Nivrati Syat, Tato Nishta Ruchis Tataha, Atha Sakte Tato Bhavas Tataha Prema Vidyanchati, Sadhakanamayam Premna Pradurbhave Bhavet Kramaha. And what is the meaning of it? Who would like to read? Somebody please read out. Okay, Mother Satya, let's hear from you. Go ahead.
In the beginning, there must be faith. Then one becomes interested in associating with pure devotees. Thereafter, one is initiated by the spiritual master and executes the regulative principles under his orders. Thus, one is freed from all unwanted habits and becomes firmly fixed in devotional service. Thereafter, one develops taste and attachment. This is the way of sadhana bhakti, the execution of devotional service according to the regulative principles. Gradually, emotions intensify, and finally, there is an awakening of love. This is the gradual development of love of Godhead for the devotee interested in Krishna consciousness.
So, from beginning to end, the whole journey has been described. We can study the subject matter more in depth when the story of Narada, the boy, is described in the first canto. So, all of us, our journey began with Shraddha, some faith, either in the devotee of the Lord, either in the scriptures, or even a faith like, this ISKCON people serve nice food, or this ISKCON people know how to enjoy life, they do nice kirtans like that. So with some faith, we come in contact with devotees. Adho Shraddha Ta Sadhu Sangha, we get association of sadhus, and in their association, we learn devotional principle and then engage in bhajana kriya, chanting the 16 rounds, etc., etc. And when we take to the practice of spiritual life, then happens anartha nivriti, freedom from anarthas. The process of getting freed from anarthas happen, and when that gets over, then happen nishtha, ruchi, asakti, prema, like that. The follow-up stages comes. So, how can somebody understand who is a prema bhakta? So Srila Prabhupada explains, it is very, very difficult to understand prema bhakti. Mother Swapna, please read out what you see on the screen.
Difficulty of understanding prema. Usually we judge a person.
Mother, can you speak a little loudly?
Usually we judge a person's level of success by how happy he has become. This standard becomes useless when applied to a prema bhakta. A devotee in prema is so inattainable in waves of transcendental emotion that he cannot even perceive external happiness or distress. Consequently, attempting to measure success by conventional standards is frivolous and misses the point. My dear Supreme Goddess, you may know from me that anyone who has developed the ecstasy of love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead and who is always merged in transcendental bliss on account of this love cannot even perceive the material distress or happiness coming from the body or mind.
So, in other words, it is literally impossible to identify who is at the stage of prema bhakti. Of course, this is not even our need for any one of us to judge who is a prema bhakta devotee or not, but because the symptoms are very erratic, it's very difficult to understand. Just like you will read about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Antya Leela, particularly after the age of 30, when he spent next 18 years in Jagannath Puri, it was very, very difficult to comprehend his activities and his leelas like that. So with this, we come to the conclusion of this Prema Bhakti subject matter. I have given you the overview of it. You can read it by yourself, the subject matter. Again, what is Prema Bhakti? It is condensed Bhava Bhakti. Then we talked about the primary and the secondary, tertiary lakshanas or the symptoms of Prema Bhakti. It is a natural progression from Bhava Bhakti to Prema Bhakti. The difference between Bhava and Prema Bhakti, there are still certain reactions to our Vaishnava Aprad remaining, which have not been purified, because of which we have not yet attained Prema. But Prema Bhakti is a stage where all anarthas and the reactions to it are totally eradicated. Now the consciousness of such person is so thickly stooped with the prema for Krishna that nothing exists. He is in fact, oblivious to the happiness and distress experienced by his body and his mind. Nothing of this world matters to him. Although in this world, but he is not or she is not of this world. His mind, his senses, everything is engaged totally in the service of the Lord. And that is what the status of a Prema Bhakta. So with this, we conclude our discussion. Today we talked about Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. I kind of just discussed whatever theoretically it was mentioned. I have no adhikar to speak on this subject matter. Therefore, I didn't share any much examples. But whatever Prabhupada explained, I tried repeating it. If anyone has any comments or clarification, either on the subject we discussed today or from previous sessions, we can take it. And after that, we close for today. Hare Krishna. So there is no break today. There is only break for exam preparation. We're not going to have a 5-minute break now. We're going to only close the class, and we may meet at the end of the month where I may give you an overview and take question answers. So in case if anyone has any questions or comments, we can discuss now for a few minutes. Yes, Mother Manisha.
Prabhu, we discussed that the imitative attachment, one is the Chaya Pratyabhas, and another is Pratidin. So in Pratidin, it is mentioned that the goal is corrupt. How the goal is corrupt, I didn't get it.
Yeah, in the reflective, the abhas which is mentioned, the goal is corrupt is, it's not their genuine emotion which is coming out. They're not performing devotional service with an intention to please Krishna or to attain love of Godhead. They're practicing devotional service, or they're serving the Vaishnavas with an intention to gain some material gains. They still have material attachments, and the fulfillment of material attachments are the inspiring factor for them to take sadhu sangha or to serve the sadhus. That is why it is said to be corrupted. Whereas the shadow, the aspect of this Bhava Bhakti is not considered impure. Although for that the neophyte which manifests that, it is because of association of the devotees, but yet his motivations are pure. That's the point here. All right. So I guess we close it for today. Can I request the host if there is something they can manage it? If there are any questions, you can call for it. If not, close for it today. Okay, Rati Manjari Mataji, your hand is up. Go ahead, please.
Prabhuji, Prabhuji, the questions on Bhava and Prema would come for the test?
I don't know. You look into the question bank. Bhava and Prema, at least theoretically what you read, there could be something could be asked. Questions are generally, the questions that you write for exams are generally to check your understanding. The questions which are called as open book assignment, they are to, of course, not understanding. Your memory is what is tested in a closed book exam. In open book exam, your understanding is tested. Like that. For that, there are only 2 questions. Of course, they are not on Bhava Prema Bhakti. I guess we have a lot of things to deal at our sadhana bhakti status right now. So focus should be more on that. Okay. So therefore, I don't think so they asked much in Bhava and Prema. Hare Krishna. Yes, Madam Maithavni. Mother, you have a question?
Huh?
Yes, Mother.
Prabhuji, on chapter number 16, we spoke about spontaneous devotional service. It's talking about 2 categories and 2 classifications of conjugal love, right? So I understand the 2 classifications, which is like Parakya, Bhava, and Bhakti, which is like, lover and beloved and the themes of Dwaraka. But when we're talking about the 2 categories, which is saying one is directly attached to Srimata, is embodied in conjugal called Keli, and one is not in direct contact and just relishes the hearing the activities of the Lord with the cookies. These 2 categories come under Parakya Bhava only, or are these 2 categories also there in Bhakti?
It's not explained like that. It is explained the two further categories where a devotee wants to engage directly with the Lord, and other is a devotee is happy assisting the gopis serving the Lord. It is not described in the Parakya and Swakya. It could be there also in that, but it's not described like that. Fine?
But probably then there's a question in the closed book exam which says what are the categories of conjugal love. So do we mention Parakya and Swakya there, or the scale, and the term is not mentioned even for those who are not in direct contact for it. So what would be the answer to that?
That you have to read the 16th chapter carefully.
Probably I have read it 2 times. I cannot find the answer to the question. I mean, we don't know what we have tried, right? So then,
I can't give you the answer for the question like this, na? So whatever you have understood, you write. And if your answer is right or wrong, I'll tell you once the paper is checked.
giving the questions in advance, that's why they've given the closed book in advance, right?
So all
Like, at
right.
least you can score 80%.
So we wish you all the best for your study time, and we'll let you know if in case we meet before the exam date, if there is a need to do an overview. All right. Have a wonderful Nasimha Chaturdashi celebrations and summer vacations. Don't get too much absorbed in summer vacation. You have Nectar devotion study also. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Rupa Goswami ki, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Gauranga, 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 Gauranga.